Hey everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over all the books I read in January. So, as y'all know, the month of January was very busy for me. I was in the process of moving, so I didn't get to read every day, and I didn't even start reading until I think the third day of January when things started to settle down. But overall, I still read 8 books, so it wasn't terrible. I do plan to read more books in February though, even though it's a shorter month. So I've got my stats. So in the month of January, like I said, I read 8 books, and I read 7 female authors, and then 1 was a repeat female author that I have read twice this month. I had 1 5-star book, 2 4-star books, 1 3.5-star book, and 4 3-star books. So it could have been a better reading month, ratings wise, but you know what, it's okay. Those months are bound to happen, so I'm glad I got it over with. So I read 2,545 pages, and that is about 82 pages read per day. So the first book I read this month was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This book I've been wanting to read for the longest time, but I found Beach Read in Book of the Month, and so I didn't have Book of the Month at the time, and I could not find this book in Book of the Month anywhere. I just kept seeing the paperback and I wanted them to match. So finally, when my husband got me Book of the Month for Christmas, I had my first add-on be this book because I really wanted to read it, and it was super cute, super fun. I enjoyed this book. The same as Beach Read for me. Like, everyone raves about Beach Read, and to me, like, it wasn't like the best book I've ever read, but it was still cute, so I gave that one 4 stars, and that's exactly how I felt about this one. It wasn't anything spectacular, like it didn't blow me away, it wasn't like the best romance I've ever read, but it was definitely really cute, and I gave it 4 stars. This was my first Friends to Lovers that I've ever read, and I enjoyed it, but I still think Hate to Love Romance is my favorite. The next book I read was The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. This book was a lot shorter than I was expecting it to be. It was 290 pages, so because of that, I just thought it was going to be more fast-paced than it was. I don't see the hype with this book, I really don't. It was just okay. I gave it 3 stars. This book follows a woman who's a dog sitter, and she dog sits for a bunch of people in this like really rich neighborhood, and she comes across this man that she's never met because he doesn't have a dog, and they end up falling in love and get married. Well, they're engaged, they don't actually get married. I don't know, it had a lot of potential and it just flopped for me. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, so like I said, 3 stars. Next I read You'll Be the Death of Me by Karen M. Mcmanus. This book I gave 3 stars. It definitely was better than The Cousins, which I also gave 3 stars, but I enjoyed this one more. I just found myself getting bored while reading it, and I don't know, I just couldn't get into this book. It could have just been the month I was having because I felt that way about a lot of books I read this month, but this book follows 3 high school, I believe they're seniors. This was a while ago when I read it, even though it was like probably 3 weeks ago, but it follows Ivy, Cal, and Mateo. They were like the bestest friends, and then over the years they drifted apart and weren't really friends. Like, they were acquaintances at this point. Anyways, they all run into each other at school and decide to skip school together, where they witness a student being killed. Because they weren't at school, they become prime suspects, and the premises sounds like it would be really good, and it wasn't executed very well, so 3 stars. Next I read Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. This was her newest release, came out I believe on the 4th this month. I had originally pre-ordered it, so because of that I skipped Book of the Month, and I was having it shipped to my mom's house, and she lives right next to an Amazon, not like right next, 2 small towns over to an Amazon warehouse. So I was thinking, okay, she's gonna get this super quick because I was in the process of moving. I couldn't have it shipped to my house. I had it shipped to hers. Never showed, kept getting delayed. It was delayed by like 4 days at this point, and so I said, screw it, I'm going to unskip the month and just get it on Book of the Month, and it'll match the Book of the Month of Rachel Hawkins, The Wife Upstairs. Anyways, besides that, I gave this book 3 stars as well. This one follows a couple, Lux, and I'm spacing on her boyfriend's name. I don't know, I'm spacing on the boyfriend's name, but Lux and her boyfriend, they live in Hawaii, and they're just kind of stagnant in life. Like, she's a waitress or bartender or something like that, and she just feels stagnant. And so there's these tourists who are paying a large sum of money to go boat to this very secluded, exclusive island that they've heard stories about. And so they hire Lux and her boyfriend, because her boyfriend's got a boat, to take them there. And while they're there ends up being another couple there, and it sounds like it would be really cool because it takes place on a deserted island, but it just fell short. Just didn't hook me how I was hoping, and I was really excited for this book, and I just feel like I was let down. I mean, it was still good, but it's definitely not something that I'm going to remember or that's going to stick with me. So because of that, I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This was my 5-star read this month. I was so blown away by this book. It was so cute. Not my favorite Colleen Hoover, but still a really good one. I still think Regretting You is one of my favorite. I enjoyed all of them that I read, but I think Regretting You is my favorite. Anyways, this book follows a woman who was in prison for the last 5 years. And the reason why she was in prison was because she was at a party or something with her boyfriend and they decided to leave, so she drove home drunk and got into a car accident where he died. And she survived, because that's always how it goes. The drunk driver survives but kills an innocent person. Anyways, he dies, so she gets 5 years in prison. She didn't know that she was pregnant until a couple months or weeks into being in prison. And so when she gives birth, she signed away her rights to her boyfriend's parents. And so when she gets out of prison, she makes it her mission to find a stable place to live, get a stable job, and work towards getting a relationship back with her daughter, DM. And Kenna, the mom, gets to this city and she ends up falling for this man who she knows is her boyfriend that died, Scotty. She knows that it's his best friend, and his name is Ledger. And Ledger doesn't know that it's Kenna at first until a little bit later in the story, but they end up falling for each other, which the romance in this story is so cute. But the dynamic between Kenna really trying hard to get her daughter back and have a relationship with her daughter was so beautifully written. I'm not gonna have any spoilers, but I will say, this is spoiler free, I don't know how I feel about Kenna. Yes, accidents happen and she made a wrong choice, but she's learned, did her time, and grown from her time in prison. But I also feel like you don't deserve to have a relationship with your daughter because you killed her father. I don't know. It's one of those things that I don't know how I feel. Like, if it were to happen to me in real life, or like I knew someone who this situation happened to in real life, I don't know whose side I would be on. I really don't. I try to be unbiased about the whole thing, but I don't know. It was hard. Really good book. I really enjoyed it. The premise was amazing, and I gave it 5 stars. Next, I read The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I did really good this month with my reading challenges. If you watched my reading challenges video, I'll link that up above and down below. But I am participating in the alphabet challenge and the book cover color challenge, where you read a book that starts with every letter of the alphabet, and then you read a book whose book cover is every color of the rainbow plus black and white. And People We Meet on Vacation, the first book I read this month, was for my orange book cover, and then this one was for my green book cover. So I did really good with that. I went into this book thinking that it was like the Hunger Games. I didn't read the premise or anything. I just based off of what I've read on the cover. Like, she came from nothing, they have everything, let the games begin. I feel like while reading this book, I wasn't reading about a game. I don't know. I just wasn't into whatever the heck was happening. I thought it was like the Hunger Games. It was not. I gave it 3 stars. It kind of bored me, to be honest. I'm still gonna finish out the series because the 3rd book comes out in August and I have the 2nd one. So I'm still gonna finish the series, but I'm gonna take my time with it. I'm not gonna read the next book next month. I'm gonna take my time with it, but I just didn't really care for this book all that much. But essentially, this book follows, I already forgot her name, Avery Grams, and Avery, all of the sudden, is being contacted by these people that she doesn't know who they are. And for some reason, this man that died put her on his will to pretty much receive everything that he owns. And she's really confused because he has children, and then each of his children have a lot of kids. So he's got kids and grandkids that he could have given his fortune to, but instead he gives it to Avery. And she's very confused why. So throughout the book, I guess that's what the game is. I wouldn't call it a game. She tries to figure out why the heck she's on this man's will and who the heck he was, why he has a relation to her. And I just feel like when we find out why, it was like, that's it. That's why. I don't know. Wasn't into it. Gave it 3 stars. The next book I read is Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon. And the book is already, if you can see that, it got damaged because I wasn't paying attention and my toddler spilled my Coke on it. And I was very upset because this book literally came out on the 11th of January, so it's still so new. I could be mad though, because I mean, I wasn't paying attention. But anyways, so Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This book follows a girl named Ari, and Ari works at a Seattle news station, and she works with a man, what is his name again? Russell. She works with a man named Russell. He's the sports broadcaster, and working for the company is just not going well because the two superior people, the bosses, they used to be married and then got divorced, and it's just a nightmare. They're always fighting, can't get along, just makes the workplace miserable. So Ari and Russell decide to try to get their relationship back to what it was, because Russell works closely with Seth and knows that Seth still has feelings for Torrance, the ex-wife. And Ari works closely with Torrance and knows that Torrance, why she wanted a divorce was because Seth didn't do such and such, or Seth did this and it bothered her, blah blah blah. So Ari and Russell work together to get them back to a state that it's not miserable to go to work. And while that happens, Ari and Russell fall in love, and the premise is super cute, but it just was so slow. It started out painfully slow, and then it started to pick up, and then the last 40 pages, which are crucial for a story, were so slow again. So because of that, I gave it 3.5 stars. Then the last book I read was You'll Thank Me for This by Nina Siegel, Cigale, I don't know. This was for Y in my alphabet challenge, so I conquered 3 books this month, so I'm excited about that. But upon starting this book, I was looking at the reviews and I noticed it had a 3.16 rating on Goodreads, and I was instantly turned off. I'm like, I'm not gonna like this book. It's a short book, it's 243 pages, but I thought, I'm not gonna like this book, it's gonna be boring based off of the reviews. It had a lot of 1s and 2s and 3-star reviews and hardly any 4s and 5s. So I already went into this thinking I'm not gonna like it, but surprisingly, I didn't mind it. I gave it 4 stars. It was pretty fast paced for the little amount of pages it has. But this book follows a 12-year-old girl and her mom. The 12-year-old girl's name is Karen and her mom's name is Grace. And this takes place in, I can't remember exactly where, but they speak Dutch. It just says that Grace is an American and has a Dutch husband. It said it once in the book where they live, but I don't remember. So because of where this book takes place, taking young kids and blindfolding them and driving them to the middle of nowhere and dropping them in somewhere in the woods or someplace that there's they don't recognize or whatever, that's common, I guess, in that culture. And so that's what this book is about. It takes place, literally starts with Karen being blindfolded and dropped in the woods. And the premise sounds like it would be really good. I felt like it was, anytime it was Karen's point of view, it was fast and interesting, and I wanted to know more. Each chapter was a different perspective of Karen or her mom. And whenever it got to Grace's chapters, I just felt like they dragged by. I wasn't really interested in them. But I mean, I wasn't to the point where I didn't want to pick up this book. I did finish it very quickly because it was 243 pages. So because of that, I still gave it 4 stars. But it's not something that's wow, this was the best book I've ever read. So those are all the books that I read in January. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe and turn on post notifications to be notified every time I upload. Leave a comment letting me know what books you read in January and what were your favorites, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.